folks, it's me, Cheryl Arkson. I am your host on the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sew Along. We're here for another week. It is week, can't even remember, 35, 6, 7, 8, 9, 39, week 39. There we go. Whew. Had a moment. The reason I can't remember, beyond, you know, the normal perimenopausal BS, is that the chaos, so much chaos. I'm coming to you this way where we can see our lovely ladies, our friends, the quilters, because I don't have a design wall anymore. And over here, off camera, are boxes and piles and bins, and it's just chaos. Hopefully the final inspection for the new space is tomorrow. Well, it is tomorrow, so hopefully we pass because we think we did everything that we were supposed to do. So I just need to get in and clean the studio from all the construction mess, and then I can start moving. And the reason I have no design wall is because, I don't know if I've told you this or not, my daughter is moving into this space, one of the girls, the middle one, and she wanted a whiteboard in her room. It is progress. Yes, thank you, Sleeping Dog Quilts. It is progress. But yeah, so Elena wanted a whiteboard in her room, and this wall, you can see, has these brackets and there's pencil marks. I don't know if you can see them from previous stuff. Anyways, we were gonna have to paint this until I had the idea that we replace my design wall with whiteboard. We happen to have a business that can do such things. So, and conveniently, when I went to talk to our shop manager, he's like, oh, well, I have these 2 boards left over from another project. I wonder if they'll work as whiteboards. So we tested them and they work. So we don't even have to spend any money to do it. Well, any outlay of cash, just one guy's time to trim out the edges, transfer all of the hanging hardware, and then she will get a whiteboard as big as my design wall, and she could not be happier. This is like, she's like, I'm going to rent it out. A bunch of her friends want to come over and use it. So it'll be good. It will get as much use as the design wall, I am sure. And then if she ever moves out of this house, out of this room, then we'll worry about painting the room then. So that's why there's chaos. So progress, yes, but chaos. And today was a, on my part, a stressful day of online school for my son, because he just seemed very needy. And so by the time he left to go to his afternoon school, I was done. And I hadn't made a block yet for today. I still haven't made it, but we're all sorted and planned. I realized what I needed to do more than anything was play. That's it, just play. So I came downstairs, got in the scraps, played, gave me a couple of ideas. So we'll finish up the block together because we're working with scraps. And I'm going with some smaller scraps today. There's a lot of stopping and starting. So really, I just kind of got a head start on the block. So let's get to it. We've already said hi to our ladies. So I'm going to turn this around. There we go. We'll say hi again. Oh, the sunbeam is back. We will not have sunbeams in the new place. And there we are. So I just went into the scrap bin and grabbed a handful of scraps, and I've been digging through them to make little itty bitty strip sets. So that one is in rainbow order. This one is kind of half in rainbow order, but not really. This one is not at all. So I've made those 3, and I'm gonna make 2 more. Again, just grabbed scraps, did it as it comes, and I'm just gonna get them laid out. So some of the pieces are skinnier, some are thicker, right? This one was already joined together. So we're gonna have kind of this, oops, if I wanna go in rainbow order, right? Just a fun kind of mix up of things. And I don't want, I'm going to use this piece instead of that piece. And so I don't need the orange. We'll still go in rainbow order, but we've got that pieced section like that, just for something a little bit different. So I am going to go ahead and do these along the way there. So let's get those sewing together. So I'm just going to chain piece. So I'll sew these two. Let's make sure we have a separation so I don't sew one to the other. And then I'll do pairs here as well. Okay, so it's not super exciting sewing, but it's that kind of just, I find it very calming sewing. It doesn't, I mean, it probably, the reason I went for this kind of a block too was because I just actually put up a blog post, and it's all about scraps and using scraps. A couple of tips on avoiding the overwhelm when it comes to scraps, because we know, even I, who love scraps, am not immune to the overwhelm of them. Not at all. In fact, that's kind of one of the reasons I just finished the last quilt that I posted, that braided rug quilt, because it was the overwhelm. I just needed to deal with them because they were kind of getting to me. So, okay, so once you have them, you can, that first round, you can wait and press them all afterwards, or you can press them now. I'm just going to wait, just for the sake of efficiency. Do all of the machine stuff. We just have a couple more seams here. If for whatever reason you get confused and you don't put them in rainbow order, that's all right. Okay, making progress there. Let's add these last pieces on to each of our little strip sets. Now don't worry about these being straight or square or anything. We're just getting them together. Kind of want to use things as they come to us, because that's the best way to make use of scraps. The more we try to kind of make our scraps conform to what we think they should be, the more waste, the less success we have. Frankly, kind of like people. Let people be the way they want to be and are most comfortable, and you're going to have greater success. You're going to have beauty from it all. So let's go and press these over here. Do you know what I'm excited to get in my studio? I'm going to get a new iron. I haven't got it yet. I have been buying things along the way to get ready. I haven't bought the new iron, but I will be, because I've never actually liked this iron. It really did not work well. When it's working well, it's fine. It's not horrible, and I'm not getting rid of it, but it leaks. It always has leaked, and it needs to have a fair amount of water in it for me to get any steam. So it's going to stay home for when we need to iron clothes. And I'll get a new one. Okay, so now I have, you can see here, I did 5 because I like the uneven number. It's funny, I am very much a symmetry person, but my mother-in-law drilled into me the odd numbers look better thing. And in quilting, it's kind of, you know, sometimes the odd numbers are what you want, and sometimes you want things to be different. Okay, so what am I doing? I've got a strip of background. I'll probably need some more, so I've just got it set aside, but I cut 1 strip. And what I'm going to do is I want to aim for 3 strips that have these rainbows interspersed in them. I can put the rainbows either way. This one I cut to be that direction, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. What whatever you have for your background, you're going to need to make sure that it equals up to the size of the block that you want. So in this case, I'm going to do this one that way, and I'm going to cut a longer piece like that. We can play around with it. We can add, we can trim. Don't get too stressed about it. We can always make more of these rainbows along the way. So I'm gonna just do that one a little bit longer because I want it to be variation in there. But in my head, I was going to have sort of 3 strips of background with these rainbows sewn into it. So I'm just going to stop with the 3 that I have here, press these, and then take stock of what I need to do for the next step. Okay. Not a big deal. We'll move you back over here for pressing. So I'm going to just press towards the rainbow. When it comes to pressing the rainbows, it probably is a good idea to press them all in the same direction. It's just going to make for a neater overall block. I recognize that sometimes that might not be the best choice depending on what pieces you have in there. So don't stress too much. It's just one of those things that you can do. Like in this case, it was already pressed that way. So am I going to change it? No. Just gonna go with it. Okay. So there we go. Let's go back over here and see where we're at for our block. I am gonna get my scraps out of the way in case I need to cut more from my background. What do we have going on here? I want some variation. And I may decide to actually, do I want to insert strips in here? Right, I can play around with that. Maybe I go this way. Right, so we can play around with where things are going to go. Right, do I want to do it more like that? And then have some up there. Do I want to do some things like this? Oh, I like that. So now I'm going to kind of just fill in the blanks, let's say. If I do this, I want to just kind of gauge how tall that's going to be. Oh, more than I need. More than I need. So let's finish up that center one. Doesn't have to be your center one. You can play around with where it goes. Okay, so I know I want to do this, so I'm going to cut out a piece that's going to go there. And probably what I'll do is just trim this to be the width of this. But I could also add a little strip of background to make this wider, so that it would be equal to that distance. In fact, I am going to do that. So I'm just going to add a strip of background onto there as well. So it just comes about kind of sort of puzzling it together. I'm not measuring along the way, but what I find it's easy to do is if I'm making kind of multiple decisions like I am here, I'm going to stop and regroup periodically because otherwise I'll get confused, if I'm being totally honest. So I'm going to, remember this one I pressed towards the rainbow? I'm going to press this one. I'm just going to keep pressing in the same direction. So I'm just finger pressing that one. There's my roller. Wasn't in the bin. So we've got that. We have this one as well. I'm going to use the iron for that one. Okay, so we're going to have that there. And then this one, which I'm not sure is long enough, so we'll see. Oh no, because that one's going to get joined. All right, right. Remember, I want to do that. So before, let's just double check that I have the length. I need 10.5 inches. I'm at 11 and a bit, so I know I'm good there. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this one. But I've got this really jagged edge, so I'm just trimming that. And I'll sew this, and then I know I have this piece done. Okay, and then I'm gonna want to add here. Now again, the question is do I want to add a piece here? I think I do, again. So I need a bit of a bigger piece. I'd rather have bigger and then have to trim it down. Right, so I'm gonna sew that on. Let's just have some fun, kind of make the strip sets. That's your first step, is make the strip sets and then see where it goes from there. Okay. Then we can have fun laying out the block and filling in blanks and all the rest of it. So I think I like that idea. Right, so I'm just going to leave that for the moment before I decide anything further. I am going to put a piece in here. So I will add that. All right, so it's just the backing and forthing. Just kind of part of the game with improv, right? Is figuring out exactly what we want it to do. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not figuring out exactly what we want it to do, because it's never going to be exactly what we think. We're only doing our best guess of the idea that we have, right? And embracing whatever it becomes. Which frankly is the advice I need to hear today. So this was kind of perfect for that. Alrighty, let's see where we're at. Okay. So I have that one. I have this one. Just needed a good press. Right, so I was just kind of filling in some blanks. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to straighten up these edges where they're going to butt against each other. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to kind of get an idea on how much room do I have? How much length do I have in these? Or sorry, I know the length. I want to figure out width. Right? Am I going to have to add some filler strips? I'm going to have to make a whole other strip. I don't know. Right? But I'm just going to give myself nice straight edges to work with so that I have a better idea. I'm trimming off as little as possible on that side. Right? They don't have to be super straight, or you can make them totally straight. It's entirely up to you, meaning parallel, I should say. Just gonna flip that around to do it from the other side. Okay, oops, missed a spot. There we go. Let's see where we're at now. I'm not worrying about what's going to be outside edges because I can figure that out afterwards. So if I butt these all together, right, I'm going to lose an inch because of seam allowances, because I have 2 seams. So 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch there. And even without that seam allowance, I am not wide enough. So I have a couple of choices. I can insert strips in the middle, or I can insert strips on the outside. I think I'm going to go with the middle so that these rainbows can be separated and they can exist kind of as their own little things. So this is the scrap I have left from that initial strip. Obviously it's not big enough, so I'm just going to cut a couple of strips. It don't have to be, in all honesty, I just want to make sure they're kind of parallel, but I don't really care what size they are. But I have this bit from here, and I want to make sure I don't cut them too skinny, because then everything that I lose, there will have been no point to putting them in here, right? So if I'm not going to do math. I don't want to do math. But I'm at 10.5 here. I'm going to lose 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here. That brings me to 9.5, right? So I want to make sure each of the bits that I'm adding in here, I'm adding in more than 1/2 inch on either side. So just to give myself wiggle room, I'm going to kind of cut my strips like 1.5 inches or so, just to make sure I have more than I need. They don't have to be the same. I'm just being efficient in my cutting there. So now I have 2 strips. Again, these are not cut to the exact length, but they give me an idea. You could cut them to the exact length if you would prefer, but now I can play with where these are going to go, right? I kind of like that, having that be actually in the corner, and then this one not being in the corner. So I want a piece here, so I can either cut because I have extra up here, or I can just grab this extra bit here. So before I assemble all my rows, I'm going to do this. And then the last thing I'm going to do before I assemble the rows is I'm not too concerned with measuring to have exactly 10.5 inches so that I'm precisely piecing everything as I put it together. I don't want to do that, but I also don't want to sew more than I need to, frankly. So once I kind of have this layout roughly like that, I'm just going to trim off this extra bit there and trim off this extra bit here. So I think I'm still going to be well, you know, 1 inch or so more than I need, but I can trim that up in the final squaring up. So now I'm just going to sew all these seams together. Because I've already straightened those seams, it's going to go pretty quickly. I will chain piece throughout the whole thing. And while I'll do that, I'm going to tell you the gossip that happened in our neighborhood yesterday. Well, it's kind of scary, but it is all gossip because nobody, the police aren't releasing any information. So I go to leave the house yesterday. It was the day off because it was National Truth and Reconciliation Day here in Canada. So my son went out with friends, my husband was at work, my oldest daughter was at work, and then my middle one and I were going to go out and do some stuff. So we get in the car and we're like, oh, there's cops on the street. We live on a big cul-de-sac. I'm just going to press these seams now as I go. We live on a big cul-de-sac and there's kind of cops blocking the entrance to the cul-de-sac. So we're like, are we going to be able to leave? What's going on? So we go, they move, they let us out. I ask, hey, what's going on? And she just says, there's an incident, I can't tell you more. I'm like, oh, okay. So I text my neighbor who happens to live right across the street from where the cops are. And I'm like, hey, do you know what's going on? And she's like, yeah, there's some chatter on the Facebook, neighborhood Facebook group, which I don't have Facebook, so I wouldn't have known. I'm just going to stop and digress. I had a couple of blips with the pressing here, so you can see where it kind of went that way. If I just go and press these open now and then pay attention to those seam allowances as I sew, I'll be fine. Anyways, so my neighbor says, yeah, there's like SWAT in the alley, and she mentions a specific house saying, you know, there's a guy with a sniper rifle trained in that direction, like a police officer with a sniper rifle. We're like, oh my gosh, right? And then an hour later, I text her and I'm like, is it still going on? She's like, no, they're all gone now. But, you know, the word on the street is that it was somebody had a weapon and there were threats being made or something. No one really knows. It's like, oh, okay. Continue on my day. And then when I get home, it occurs to me, you know what? That's like 3 houses away from me. That whole time, 3 houses away. Down the alley. If I had, you know, decided to go for a dog walk, quite often I go through the alley. I would have walked right by all of that, or would have tried to walk by. I'm sure it would have been stopped, because that was the word, is that they weren't letting people in the dog off-leash park there. But, like, don't you think they should have told the neighbors that something was going on if there was, you know, a risk like that? Like, maybe because we don't know the whole story, it really was no risk to us, but it is kind of concerning, like, that I could have gone to take the garbage out or take the dog out and come face to face with somebody with a gun, which is not normal in this neck of the woods. So yeah, that was our excitement. And I did take the dog for a walk this morning in the off-leash area. There was no sign of anything having happened. None whatsoever. So I have no idea. And while I'm not on Facebook, and therefore not part of the neighborhood chat, I'm sure everything in there is nothing but gossip anyways. So who knows? But yeah, it was the neighborhood excitement. That's for sure. Okay, I am finished. I'm just pressing this last seam. Lovely. I think that'll be a nice addition to the quilts. So there's our block. Yay! Block number 39. So now if I want to square it up, I've got some wiggle room. I could go, ooh, I could go a little bit wonky because I have enough space too. That could be kind of fun. I am looking and seeing that when I trim over here, I'm going to lose part of that. This rainbow up here in the corner, but if I move it over too much, I lose part of this rainbow, which may be actually the argument for going a little bit wonky, because then I will still get this and enough of this. So there we go. That's how we're doing it. Go a little bit wonky. Ooh, you notice it after it cuts, right? I'm going to lose some of this orange here. You'll see just the tiniest amount when the block gets sewn together, but so be it. So we got a few comments. Scattered rainbows. I like that, Terry. That's a good way to do it. The Caffeinated Creative says she just loves how it came together. Thank you. It was pretty straightforward, hey? Uses the scraps. Quite a bit of play in there, right? Just kind of going, let's see what happens. Ooh, slipped with that There we go. There's our block. This is a little bit wonky, but it works quite nicely. I like it. And scattered rainbows. We're going with that. Right? Uses up some scraps. Has some fun little improv, wonkiness, and just generally, it's happy to make. It's easy to make. It's happy to make, right? So let's move you up here. We will say goodbye to the ladies for this week. I will flip you around, but actually we're not saying goodbye because I'm going to keep them behind me instead of the mess of the wall that's there. Let's hold that block up again. Really quite fun. I think it actually works really well that we switch up the directions of the rainbows, right? So some vertical, some horizontal, and then having these kind of weird bits from scraps left over in there. Is that necessary? No, not at all. Just another way to add some play to it. So next week, unless we fail our inspection tomorrow, there is always that possibility. But assuming we're going to pass, because we think we've done everything we were supposed to do to pass, next week I'll be coming to you from the new studio. Pretty excited about that. Very excited about that. It might not be fully set up yet, but it'll be functional, that's for sure. The sooner I can get out of this space, the happier my daughter will be. And as she pointed out the other day, if she's happy, the rest of the house is happy. Because she's the crankiest one in the house. But you didn't hear me say that out loud. No, not at all. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you posted. That's for sure. That is for sure. So thank you, everybody. Again, I am Cheryl Arkeson, your host on the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sew Along. This was week 39 of our 49-week adventure for 2024. Rainbows are our theme because who doesn't love rainbows? Oh, total aside. I was walking the dog this morning, and when I was coming home, it was kind of like when all the kids were leaving for school and stuff. And this little girl came running up. She's like, "Can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog?" And I'm like, "Yeah, as long as it's okay with your parents there." And so she came up and she petted the dog. She's like, "I love dogs." And then she starts listing all the things that she loves. She loves babies and unicorns and Pegasus and rainbows. So I'm going to channel her excitement this morning because I love rainbows too. And hopefully you do too. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you around.